My stepfather threw me out on my 18th birthday, but the next day I discovered I owned the house. And that's when their perfect world started crumbling. I'm Ryan, 19 now, studying software engineering at a state college in Arizona. Never thought I'd be sharing this story online, but after everything that happened these past months, maybe someone can learn from what I went through. I grew up in a typical middle-class Phoenix neighborhood, those cookie-cutter subdivisions where houses look similar but different enough that you don't accidentally walk into your neighbor's place. Our house was a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath with a decent backyard and a garage my father had converted into his workshop. Nothing fancy, but it was home. Dad was the best person I knew. He worked as an electrical engineer at a local aerospace company, coached my little league team, and taught me to build my first computer when I was 8. He wasn't perfect, couldn't cook to save his life, and had this weird obsession with 80s metal bands. But he was always there for me until he wasn't. Dad died of a massive heart attack when I was 10. He was only 38, no warning signs, no family history. Just gone. One day we're playing catch in the backyard. The next day Mom's telling me he's never coming home. That kind of loss changes you, especially when you're a kid. After Dad died, it was just me and Mom, Linda, for about 2 years. She was okay, I guess. Worked as an office manager at a dental practice, made around $55,000 a year. We weren't rich, but Dad's life insurance and company benefits kept us comfortable. Mom wasn't particularly warm or affectionate, even before Dad died, but afterward she got colder, like she resented having to raise me alone. Then Marcus entered the picture. Mom met him at some networking event for local businesses. He claimed to be an entrepreneur with multiple business ventures and investment opportunities. Red flags everywhere, right? But Mom couldn't see it or didn't want to. They dated for a whopping 6 months before getting married. I was 13, awkward as hell, and definitely not thrilled about this random guy suddenly becoming my new dad. Marcus moved into our house with his daughter, Jessica, who was 15 at the time, 2 years older than me. From day one, she was a total nightmare. Stealing my stuff, eating my food, leaving messes everywhere and blaming me. Using my computer without permission and downloading viruses. And of course, Mom and Marcus always took her side. Ryan, don't be so sensitive. Ryan, you need to share with your sister. Ryan, stop exaggerating. It was like a broken record. Meanwhile, Jessica would smirk at me behind their backs, knowing she could get away with anything. Marcus was worse in different ways. He drove a leased BMW he could barely afford. I later found out he was always behind on payments. Wore fake designer clothes and loved bragging about his connections and deals that somehow never materialized. He'd come home with expensive electronics or watches, show them off for a few weeks, then they'd mysteriously disappear when he couldn't make the credit card payments. He was also incredibly lazy. Mom would leave for work at 7:30 in the morning, and Marcus would sleep until noon. He claimed to be working from home, but that mostly involved watching ESPN and making occasional business calls that were usually him trying to rope some poor sucker into his pyramid schemes. By the time I was 14, I realized no one in that house was looking out for me, so I started looking out for myself. I studied hard, kept my head down, and got a part-time job at a local computer repair shop when I turned 15. The owner, Mr. Singh, was an awesome guy who actually taught me useful skills. I started at $10 an hour just cleaning the shop and doing basic inventory. But as I learned more, I got raises to $12, then $15 an hour for actual repair work. I saved almost everything I earned. I had this old metal box that used to be my grandfather's where I kept my cash hidden in the crawl space above my closet where Jessica couldn't find it. By the time I graduated high school, I had nearly $8,000 saved up. Not a fortune, but it was my money that I earned. Fast forward to my 18th birthday, last October 22nd. It was a Thursday, which meant I had my programming class at community college in the morning, then regular high school classes, then a shift at the computer shop. Nothing special planned. As I got off the bus that evening around 6:30, I didn't have a car because Marcus had convinced Mom that buying me one would spoil me. I was actually in a decent mood. Maybe there'd at least be a store-bought cake or something at home. When I walked toward our house, I saw Marcus standing on the driveway next to his precious BMW. He had my old blue duffel bag in his hand and the most punchable smirk on his face. No hello, definitely no happy birthday. He just dropped my bag on the concrete driveway and said, "Time's up, kid. You're 18 now, which means you're not my problem anymore. Get out of my house." I stood there completely blindsided. "What are you talking about?" I finally managed to ask. Marcus laughed. "You're an adult now. Adults don't live rent-free. Your mom and I decided it's time for you to move out and experience the real world. But this is my mom's house. Where am I supposed to go?" Marcus's laugh got louder, meaner. "Your mom's house? That's cute. Ask her yourself if you don't believe me." Then I heard Jessica shout from her bedroom window, "Mom already knows. She's totally fine with it. You're out, loser." She was recording the whole thing on her phone, probably for her stupid TikTok. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called Mom. She answered after 5 rings. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Marcus just threw me out. He put my stuff on the driveway." There was a pause. Then she said, "I know, Ryan. We discussed this. You're an adult now." My heart literally felt like it stopped. "You agreed to throw me out on my birthday with no warning?" She sighed like I was being dramatic. "Marcus is right. You need to grow up and be a man. We've carried you long enough." Carried me? I'd been working since I was 15, buying my own clothes, paying for my own phone. I'd even given them money for groceries the past year. $300 a month that Marcus demanded to teach me responsibility. "It's my birthday today," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know. Consider this your chance to finally become independent. Happy birthday." Then she hung up. I stood there in shock, staring at my duffel bag. I opened it right there on the driveway. Some clothes, not even all of mine. My laptop, thankfully. Some basic toiletries and a few random books. No pictures of Dad. None of my tools from the workshop. "You've got 10 minutes to get anything else you absolutely need," Marcus said, checking his fake Rolex. "Then I'm changing the locks." I felt numb as I walked into what had been my home my entire life. Jessica was sitting on the stairs, still filming me. "Ah, is little Ryan going to cry?" she taunted. I ignored her and went straight to my room. I grabbed my backup hard drive with all my important files and the photo album with pictures of Dad and me. Then I reached up into the crawl space for my metal box of savings. I also remembered Dad's watch, the one nice thing he owned. A vintage Seiko his father had given him. It was supposed to be in my desk drawer. Except it wasn't. Looking for this? Jessica was standing in my doorway, dangling Dad's watch. "Marcus pawned it last week. Said since you were leaving anyway, you wouldn't need it." Something in me broke at that moment. I lunged at her, not to hurt her, just to grab the watch, but she jumped back laughing. "I'm kidding. God, you're so easy to mess with. Marcus sold it months ago." I don't remember much after that. I somehow made it back outside with my few possessions. Mrs. Chen, our elderly neighbor, was watching from her porch, concern all over her face. I must have looked like a complete wreck. I slept on my friend Kevin's couch that first night, trying to make sense of how my life had imploded in the span of a few hours. Kevin's family was awesome about letting me stay, but their apartment was tiny. This wasn't a long-term solution. The next morning, I remembered someone I hadn't thought of yet. My dad's brother, Uncle Dave. We weren't super close. He lived about 40 miles away in Tempe and worked crazy hours as a construction foreman. But he'd always been decent to me. I called him that evening, and he picked up on the second ring. "Ryan, everything okay?" I tried to sound casual but broke down about 10 seconds in. I told him everything. Being thrown out, Mom's reaction, even Dad's watch being sold. There was silence for a moment. Then he said, "Text me your location. I'm coming to get you right now." An hour later, his dusty pickup truck pulled up. He took one look at me with my duffel bag, and his face turned red with anger. "Get in," he said. "But first, I'm making a call." He called Mom on speakerphone. "Linda, it's Dave. I've got Ryan with me. He tells me Marcus threw him out yesterday, and you went along with it. What the hell is going on?" Mom's voice came through, defensive and irritated. This is between me, Marcus, and Ryan. It's not your business, Dave. Uncle Dave laughed, but there was no humor in it. Not my business? My brother's son is homeless on his 18th birthday, and it's not my business? Let me tell you something, Linda. You're going to regret this. You and that leech you married have no idea what's coming. Is that a threat? She snapped. No, it's a promise, he said calmly. I hope that house is worth losing your son over. He hung up and turned to me. Ryan, there's some stuff you need to know about that house. But first, let's get you settled at my place. That night, after dinner, real home-cooked food. Not the takeout Mom and Marcus always ordered. Uncle Dave sat me down with a serious expression I'd never seen before. Ryan, did you know your grandfather owned that house free and clear, and that when he died, he left it specifically to you? I nearly choked on my drink. What are you talking about? That house is Mom's. Isn't it? Uncle Dave shook his head. Your grandfather bought that house back in the 1990s for about $120,000. When he got sick, he updated his will. He left cash to your dad and me, but the house was specifically left to you, his only grandchild. He got up and went to his desk, pulling out a folder with yellowed papers. Here's a copy of the will. I kept one because I never fully trusted your mom, especially after she rushed to marry that con artist Marcus. I read through the legal language, my hands shaking. There it was in black and white. To my grandson, Ryan Michael Torres, I leave my primary residence at 1422 Oakwood Drive. But how could they live there if it's mine? I stammered. Uncle Dave explained. You were 11 when Grandpa died, too young to own property. The will specified that your parents would act as trustees until you turned 18. When your dad died a year later, your mom became the sole trustee. She was supposed to transfer everything to you on your 18th birthday. My mind was spinning. Instead, they threw me out of my own house. Uncle Dave nodded grimly. That's not all. I bet they've been renting out the basement apartment and pocketing the money that was supposed to go into a trust for you. He was right. About 2 years after Marcus moved in, they had renovated the basement into a separate apartment and had been renting it to a college student named Tyler for $900 a month. I always thought it was their house, their money. So what do? I asked, anger replacing the shock. First, we document everything, Uncle Dave said. Then we talk to my friend Eric. He's the best real estate attorney in the state. The next morning, we met with Eric Goldstein at his downtown office. He listened carefully as I explained everything, occasionally taking notes. When we finished, Eric leaned back in his chair. Based on these documents, he said, the house is unquestionably yours, Ryan. Your mother had a fiduciary duty to transfer the property to you when you turned 18. Not only did she fail to do that, but she and her husband illegally evicted you from your own property. Eric explained that we could prove they had been collecting rental income without putting it in trust for me, and we could sue for misappropriation of funds. Since I was technically still 17 when they threw me out at 6:30 in the evening, my birth certificate showed I was born at 9:17 p.m. That opened them up to additional legal problems. Over the next 2 weeks, we gathered evidence. My friend Kevin and his parents gave sworn statements. We got in touch with Tyler, the basement tenant, who was horrified when he heard what happened and gave us copies of all his rental agreements and payment records. $900 a month for nearly 3 years. Over $32,000 that should have gone to me. Mrs. Chun, our elderly neighbor, had even taken a picture with her phone when she saw Marcus throw my bag out, complete with a timestamp proving I was still legally a minor. Eric also discovered that Marcus had taken out a home equity line of credit for $60,000 just 6 months after marrying Mom. They had no legal right to do this since the house wasn't theirs to borrow against. This is fraud, Eric said bluntly. They forged documents to secure that loan. By mid-November, we were ready. Eric filed papers with the court, and the judge granted an emergency hearing based on the evidence of the illegal eviction of a minor. 3 days after the legal notices were delivered, my phone exploded with texts and calls from Mom. I ignored them all. Then came angry messages from Marcus. I blocked his number. Jessica even posted on Instagram about how I was trying to steal their house. A week later, we had our first court hearing. The judge was a stern-looking woman in her 60s. She began by summarizing the case, then looked directly at Mom and Marcus. The evidence of financial misconduct and breach of fiduciary duty in this case is some of the most egregious this court has seen, she said. Not only did the trustees fail to transfer the property as required by the will, but they actively worked to conceal the rightful ownership from the beneficiary, misappropriated rental income, fraudulently encumbered the property, and then evicted the rightful owner while he was still a legal minor. Mom was already crying. Marcus sat stone-faced. Therefore, this court rules as follows. Judge Martinez continued. Full and clear title to the property at 1422 Oakwood Drive is hereby transferred to Ryan Michael Torres, effective immediately. All liens and encumbrances placed on the property by the defendants are deemed fraudulent and void. I felt Uncle Dave's hand on my shoulder, giving me a supportive squeeze. Furthermore, the judge went on. The defendants Linda and Marcus Lawson are ordered to pay restitution to Ryan Torres in the amount of $57,400, representing the misappropriated rental income and illegal rent payments collected from the plaintiff. She wasn't done. The court also awards punitive damages of $25,000 for the illegal eviction of a minor. And finally, this court is referring the evidence of loan fraud to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution. The gavel came down with a bang that seemed to echo through the courtroom. Outside the courthouse, Mom burst into tears, rushing toward me. Ryan, please, we have nowhere to go. I'm still your mother. I stopped and looked at her. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose him over me, I said quietly. You threw me out of my house on my birthday without a second thought. Now you know how it feels. 3 days later, I stood on the front lawn of my house, watching as sheriff's deputies supervised Mom and Marcus loading their belongings into a U-Haul. Jessica was crying dramatically while recording herself for social media. Mom made one final plea as she carried out her last box. Ryan, you can't do this to your own mother. Where are we supposed to go? I looked at her calmly. You should have thought about that before you threw out your son. I was wondering the same thing 3 months ago. As they drove away, Uncle Dave put his hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. For the first time in a long time, I actually am. That night, I slept in my childhood bedroom in my house. I decided to keep renting the basement to Tyler at a fair price. I used some of the damages money to fix up the place, repairs that Marcus had been putting off for years. The house is mine. It always was. And now, finally, so is my life. Sometimes people ask if I feel bad about what happened to them. Honestly, I don't really care either way. Some lessons need to be taught the hard way. They made their choices, and now they're living with the consequences. I'm finishing my degree, working part-time, and eventually I might sell the house to buy something without so many bad memories. But for now, it feels good to sleep under my own roof that nobody can take away from me. What do you think? Was I wrong to take back what was legally mine? Have you ever been in a situation where family betrayed you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life drama that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about family loyalty.